Good morning, everyone. Good day to those coming from different time zones, and welcome to the seventh session of UP Manila Silab webinar series IOL 2025. I'm Gabby Velasquez, and I'll be your host for today's session. All right. So here at UP Manila Standards and Interoperability Lab, or UPM Silab, we are driven by a powerful mission, which is achieving universal health coverage through digital health capacity building and, of course, smart use of digital health technology. That's why this 2025, we're taking that mission to the next level. So we are committed to empowering everyone to elevate their digital health knowledge. And that's why we launched our weekly webinar series, the IOL 2025, which dives deep into the trends and challenges of digital health and interoperability here in the Philippines. And today, we're incredibly excited to kick things off with our very first community led webinar session. We're calling it the IOL 201 Community Connect. So this means we're putting the spotlight on the expertise and insights within our community. So get ready to learn, share, and connect with fellow COP or community of practice members. And thank you so much, everyone. We're thrilled to have you guys here with me today. All right. So 2 weeks ago, we learned about the dual use of cybersecurity for healthcare in the age of AI with Professor Susan Festin of UP Diliman. And if you missed the session, feel free to check out the highlights video on the full recording on our YouTube and Facebook account. So that's at UPM Salab. And so for today, at IOL 201, we will be exploring practical challenges and solutions in achieving health interoperability with our fellow and active community member, Sir Pei Canlas of Wireless Access for Health, or WA. So he'll tackle the vital role of local governments in establishing integrated health systems, as well as discuss the importance of inclusivity. So join us today in uncovering how a flexible approach, so it is an inclusive and expansive one, that ensures that our efforts in achieving interoperability not only meet global standards while giving credence to local dynamics of culture and governance. All right. But before we proceed with the session proper, just a quick rundown of the house rules, especially to those who are not yet familiar with these. So this session is already being recorded, and by proceeding with the meeting, you are consenting to be recorded. Kindly stay muted throughout the lecture, and a new virtual background has been provided to your email, so turning on your camera is very much appreciated. So we encourage everyone to please change your name for proper identification and please add your affiliation beside your name for proper recognition as well. Next, and this being a community-led webinar, of course, we want this session to be engaging and interactive. So later after the lecture, there will be a Q&A portion. Please actively participate and don't hesitate to ask your question. So you may either use the raise hand function, or you may type in your questions in the chat box, or if you want to ask anonymously, feel free to use the Q&A button of the Zoom. All right, so please do not leave the session after the Q&A. We will be having our group photo taken. And lastly, after the webinar, please don't forget to answer the evaluation form to receive your electronic certificates of participation. So are the house rules clear? So moving on, I invite to join us virtually our lab manager, Sir Manu Gaspar, to briefly introduce UPM Salab's community of practice. So over to you, Sir Manu.
Thanks so much, Gabby, and hello and welcome back to our community of practice members. A very big thank you to all of you for being part of our journey. You will receive our next newsletter in 2 weeks' time, packed with exciting highlights on standards and interoperability. And we're just preparing one or two of our very exciting activities to engage you more as we promote interoperability in our country and the wider region. And one of them is actually this session, or the IOL 2-1 Community Connect. And as what Gabby shared earlier, spotlighting what you have been developing or are doing for interoperability standards, etc. So please stay tuned to our emails for more details on how you can be engaged to join as part of this webinar series. And for those who are not yet members, feel free to join our now 130 plus strong group of experts, practitioners, all passionate about advancing standards and interoperability in healthcare. Every one of you is welcome. I'll be pasting the link shortly So you can sign up to receive our newsletter and join our WhatsApp group, or we can scan the QR code on screen. Back to you, Gabby.
All right. Thank you so much, Sir Manu, for that. So, again, thank you so much, everyone, for joining our first ever session of IOL 201 Community Connect. And without further ado, let me introduce our speaker for today's session. So, our speaker, hold on. Okay. Uh, all right. Okay, so our speaker for today, Mr. Felipe or Pei Canlas, stands as the visionary founding executive director of Wireless Access for Health Initiative, Inc., or the WAH or WA, where he skillfully leads a dedicated team of 22 professionals in the mission to expand this WA partnership throughout the Philippines. His leadership is instrumental in shaping the innovative WA Digital Health Platform, which is a transformative initiative aimed at enhancing healthcare accessibility here in the Philippines. So in 2013, back then, Sir Pei took a bold leap of faith, departing from a stable consultancy position to reimagine WA. So under his stewardship, it evolved from a donor-funded project into the most successful public-private partnership in the realm of digital health here in the Philippines. So what started as a humble initiative with just 4 clinics in Tarlac during its pilot phase, it has now blossomed into a widely recognized digital health partner, currently serving nearly 300 local governments and community clinics across the Philippines. Very impressive. Sir Pei's academic background is equally impressive, where he holds degrees rather in communications, international studies, and public administrations, which were earned here in the Philippines and in Japan. I believe this diverse educational foundation enhances his capability to drive change and innovation in the ever evolving field of healthcare. All right. So to present interoperability, a view from the ground, let us virtually welcome our active community member, Mr. Felipe Pei Canlas. Over to you, Sir Pei. Let's round of applause, guys.
Okay, thank you very much, Gab, for that wonderful introduction. I remember that we just submitted 4 sentences. I almost fell off my chair sa masyadong highfalutin na introduction. But thank you very much, and we welcome this opportunity to spread what we are doing sa WA, and we are very glad to speak in for and in behalf of our partners, specifically our partner local government units. So I will be presenting a view from the ground about the prospects of interoperability, its promises, and what it can do for our facilities and local governments. So the logos that you can see in the slides right now are the HCPN sites that we are trying to help. The HCPN stands for Healthcare Provider Network. So we have a MOA for provincial level and city level for province of Tarlac and Ilocos Sur, Camiguin, and the cities of Manila, Puerto Princesa, and hopefully soon also Dagupan City in Pangasinan, which is also a pilot HCPN site. Sige, next. So let me just introduce WA to everybody. So as already mentioned, WA is a non-profit organization established mainly by the province of Tarlac back in 2013. We are present all over the country, but primarily we are very active in northern as well as southern Luzon, serving 267 facilities. We have helped more than 200 facilities get reimbursement for more than 3 billion since 2018. Our mission is very straightforward. We were created to assist local government units and primary care facilities maximize the opportunities provided to them by the devolution as well as the universal healthcare law towards self-reliance using, of course, PhilHealth reimbursements as well as the DOH global budget. Again, next. So just to give a shout out to our partners, I I saw Dean Marlon Gamido of TSU. On your left, these are the original partners of the Wireless Access for Health from 2009 to 2013. We were created by these organizations, and in 2013, we registered as a nonprofit, and we are now fully supported by our local governments, led by first and foremost the provincial government of Tarlac. From time to time, and I would like to give shout outs to our development partners. We remain a constant partner and supporter, as well as how should I say this? We always receive support from USAID. So we give a shout out to our partners from USAID, and we belong and hope to work with them very soon. And then we have also other partners like Jefigo, TCI, Philippines, Zwillig Family Foundation, among others. Yeah, sige, next. So concerning on what we do or what we offer our partners, we offer, we basically tailor-fitted our technical and technological assistance to our partners to the digital health requirements of RA 11223 or the Universal Healthcare Law. We provide EMR or Health Information System platform for primary care facilities, and more recently for OPD hospital, as mandated by Section 36. We also provide assistance to PCPN and HCPN partners, as provided by Section 19, that calls for local health system integration at the provincial and city level. We also provide PhilHealth reimbursements for claims packages, as well as consulta, as mandated by sections 17 and 18, that is the population-based and individual-based reporting. And then finally, under Section 31, we also provide assistance and technological support for our facilities to comply with the DOH requirements for electronic reporting for FHSIS and DOH RISE-PH, including data analytics for public health. Section 31 of the law calls for evidence-based planning using reports generated by facilities. Next. From the technical side, if there will be questions later on the technical side, I think my technical team is on board, Mark and Eman. They would gladly answer the more techy part. But here are the technical specifications of our platform, the technology stack, the database, what kind of API do we use, and of course, what we use for authentication and security. So all these are global or national standards based, and we aim to further improve on these standards as the evolving needs of the industry as well of the health sector requires. Okay, next. So let's disaggregate or unpack the 267 partner health facilities of WA. As you can see, 88% or predominantly we are helping primary care facilities, and then we also have sprinkling of hospitals at 6%. And just more recently, beginning last year, we began entertaining also the partnership with local community clinics. These are primarily family-owned clinics, so they now stand at 6%. We were requested by the DOH and PhilHealth to assist private primary clinics as part of the growing healthcare network in the provinces and cities where we operate. As you can also see from your left, they vary in terms of accreditations for PhilHealth. And we hope we can help our facilities get the standard uniform license as well as accreditation for primary care facilities as we move forward. Next. So being a partner to predominantly public health facilities, let's further unpack our public health facilities. Who owns or manages these facilities? As you can see, 162 of the facilities are owned or managed by municipalities. 82 of these are managed by cities. I think about half of these 82 are from the city of Manila. And then the provinces have 14 facilities. Many of these facilities are district and provincial hospitals. And we are currently in partnership with two DOH regional and provincial hospitals. One in Camiguin and also one in Pangasinan. Okay, next. So, what are the digital pain points of our facilities on the ground? And I hope our facilities that are currently attending the webinar can also share their experiences, time permitting. I'm giving a shout out to the to the facilities I saw earlier. I think Bacon from Sorsogon is there, Lawak from Pangasinan, Moncada from Tarlac is here, Pangil in Laguna. We also have a Pari in Calasiao in Apari in Cagayan, and Calasiao in Pangasinan. And then our board of trustees, I was informed, is also on board, Professor Jojin Quesada. We also have the CAPAS RHU. So we speak in behalf of our LGUs and facilities. Number one would be fragmented systems. Our facilities continue to do double or triple recording of patient records. They're using WA for primarily for FHSIS and claims as well as consulta reimbursements, but they continue to record and report for NARIs, for OASIS, for ITs, and other DOH systems. And the last feedback that I received when I was in Samar is the LMIS system, which again stands alone and separate from the EMR. So this takes a lot of their time and effort. Instead of doing face-to-face service care delivery, majority of their time is spent doing multiple recording and reporting for different DOH systems. And then we also are currently looking for interoperability manual on procedures that can be used by our cities and provinces to jumpstart their local health information exchange. We have been in touch with PhilHealth and DOH on this, and everything is still being crafted, as I was informed. But we look forward this to be addressed very soon. Data migration among EMRs. We are encountering this two ways. When a facility shifts to us, they often always go back to zero data or patient database, meaning they would have to begin everything again back at zero. And similarly, when a facility disengages with WA, well, they cannot bring forth or migrate their WA database to their new preferred EMR provider. The service providers like WA have been waiting also from PhilHealth and DOH to basically regulate this data migration among EMRs to also facilitate the ease of transfer from one service provider to another. Related to fragmented systems, many of our facilities are paper and Excel-based reporting, thereby compounding again the problem of multiple reporting, not just in various EMRs or health information systems, but also in various forms, paper, Excel-based, and then the electronic versions. There continue to be challenges in terms of connectivity, especially at the barangays, although majority of our facilities are no longer listing this as a primary concern. But then again, if we really want to penetrate and make the impact of digital health more beneficial or more impactful, then we have to take a deeper and closer look at how we can connect the barangay health stations, which up to now, many of the barangay health stations still lack the a reliable connectivity for them to use an EMR or an HIS. Staff availability, I have never encountered an LGU or a facility that actually said that they have just enough number of staff to basically implement digital health as well as public health projects in their locality. There's always a shortage of staff. And then the staff competency is also, staff competency and staff turnover is also prevalent. Election is coming. And we are anticipating again another round of refresher courses because some of the staff that are available right now will probably be let go. I hope not, but it's a reality that we have to deal with. So we are now preparing for regular refresher courses after the election. And again, instead of concentrating more on service delivery, we are doing this on a regular basis. Hardware availability and quality. It's while the LGUs are slowly picking up the slack in terms of purchasing and investing on hardware and connectivity, many of the LGUs are still seeing digital health adoption at the facilities just as from the perspective of a mere computerization of health records. We are trying to change that perspective and mindset. And we cannot do that until we have fully addressed that status to hardware. And for LUs, I think with the exception of a very few many of the HCPN sites in particular that have been chosen to do the local health system integration this year, they lack the personnel, the competency of their personnel to do the fire server setup as well as how to prepare their facilities for connectivity through the fire standard. So I've been advocating for the rollout of at the very basic competency skills training for provinces and cities, specifically for the pilot HCPN sites. Non-universal healthcare coverage. Our data backs or supports the assertion of our facilities that only about 50% of their patients that they serve have, how should I say it, non-problematic PhilHealth membership benefit validation. The other 50%, they would have to pass through the usual enrollment or updating of records, which is becoming more problematic and becoming more painful, as pointed out by the last item, of because the PhilHealth systems and processes from their My PhilHealth portal as well as their HCI portal, they are often, how should I say it, not always updated, and most of the time non-responsive. Well, basically, it makes it difficult. It makes it hardly doubly difficult for facilities and the Filipinos to basically enroll themselves or enroll or to be enrolled in via PhilHealth. So therefore, the term non-universal healthcare coverage. So I think digital health would have to address this particular issue. Next. Okay, so how can interoperability help our facilities? Well, we envision interoperability to help us to have faster and seamless patient data access across platforms and facilities, including the barangays. We envision it to have to help smoothen and lead to paperless referrals and care coordination across facilities and within the health networks. It will definitely reduce the redundancy and duplicate errors, which will save time and resources of our facilities, giving them more time for patient care. It will definitely improve also public health reporting for the LGU, the DOH, and PhilHealth. For interoperability using, for example, Google Stack or FAR SDK, it will be easier for us to deploy offline EMR systems at the barangays, which would then connect to the online EMRs at the facility levels located at the cities and municipalities. And then finally, we believe sincerely and optimistically that interoperability can improve overall patient and end user experience with public health. We are optimistic and confident that interoperability can deliver that, mainly because, and we are thankful always to UPC Lab, led by Doc Alvin Marcelo. I'm not sure if Doc Elo is already on board, but we consider him at WA as a national treasure. He is one of the persons who started WAB way back in 2009. So we are very thankful because without UPC Lab, we will not be able to have this bigger picture, global picture of what interoperability can bring to our facilities at the local level. So UPC Lab is giving us what I call the local combination of global and local view on what and how interoperability can actually impact the lives of Filipinos as we move forward towards this goal, hopefully within the next 2 years. Next. What are our plans for interoperability? Well, number one, we hope for our platform to be FHIR and HL7 ready within the next 24 months. We hope to make WA FHIR compliant or FHIR native. We are now talking to some of our partners here to help us out. Again, courtesy of UPC Lab, we are expanding our network. We are talking to ONA, a US-based company, also to BED EMR from Australia, so among others. And then we are also talking to Google Stack. We would also like a move for local health information exchange that would help our cities and provinces implement this LHIE within the next 24 months. Talking to local EMRs here, CHITS, Blue EHR, iClinicSys and iHomeMIS, as well as CUDoc for this possible multi-EMR partnership. Again, this collaboration is made possible by the network we have built through the UPC Lab events. Again, as endorsed by Doc Eloy and UPC Lab, we will begin integrating the PhilSys ID verification and authentication within the next 24 months so that we would reduce, if not eliminate, the double recording of patient records within our platform and across different platforms, hopefully. We are helping the City of Manila, provinces of Tarlac, Ilocos Sur, Camiguin, also cities of Puerto Princesa and Dagupan, create or at least jumpstart their local health information exchange, and we hope this to be FHIR-powered so that our HCPNs will be able to connect to the national health database, otherwise known as the National Health Data Repository. And then on March 20, we will be piloting our two-way electronic inter-facility referral. This is not yet FHIR compliant, but we will definitely, but it's already seamless and by next year. It's with the NHDR team coming up with the FHIR core data set for referral with assistance from the DOH, we will be able to interoperate, if not within the year, early next year, with iHomeMIS and iClinicSys too, using the FHIR standards for Philippine FHIR core data set. Next. So what are our wish list for interoperability? So before we talk of interoperability of platforms, we are also pushing for interoperability of people, interoperability of policies, and interoperability of processes. For interoperability of platforms, we wish for the standards to stick or and to be mandated for all EMR providers. As of now, it's an a la carte partnership, and the providers are not receiving, at least not yet, support for them to make their platform FHIR compliant. So we second would be we would need support for our LGUs too, so that they can also sell, advocate, and of course make their local health information exchanges FHIR compliant, and their PHO and CHO health information system units be at least oriented and capacitated to the basics of interoperability. We should start now, and it should be started by everyone, not just by select few. It doesn't need to be perfect. We don't need to wait for the perfect opportunity and perfect time to start interoperability. Now is the time to do it because the facilities have been working hard and are basically overburdened with multiple system recording and multiple reporting. They need help, and there is a sense of urgency to do it as soon as possible. For interoperability of policies, we encourage PhilHealth and DOH to homogenize their indicators. I have been pointing this out for the longest time. For similar reporting, PhilHealth and DOH require different indicators, and it takes a lot of time for our facilities to comply with these reports. We have to make home the Philippine Fire Core data. It's been rolled out, but I think PhilHealth and DOH are doing the advocacy thing. But we have to make it the home for the standards that everybody should be looking up to. It's the North Star for all service providers and LGUs to follow and adhere to. And then finally, we have to harmonize the software validation of PhilHealth and DOH so that service providers and local governments won't spend so much time and resources just applying and undergoing these software validation processes. Instead of doing more innovation, they're stuck with weeks, sometimes months, and I've heard at least 1 year of completing the software validation of PhilHealth, for example. People would also need to be interoperable. There should be regular capacity building for the HIS teams of cities and provinces as well as service providers so that they will be on the same page when it comes to the digital health master plan for the country as well as the regular rollout of standards. There should also be constant and clear communication among all partners and people in charge of interoperability, not just at the national level, but also at the local level, primarily cities and provinces. And then there should be consistent follow-throughs. There's no one big step of people working and meeting once a year, and then that's it. So we also regularize small group meetings and then discussion points. So the interoperability project in the Philippines keeps moving, no matter how slow, for as long as it remains steady, then we will eventually get to the place where we want to be. And then, yes, I know the governance structure is already organized, but it's not fully functional right now. So, who holds the buck when it comes to deciding which standards to follow? So, we know, aside from Secretary Ted, there should be point persons who can call the shots and oversee and keep things moving to meet the timelines as well as the goalposts that we have set forth to do. We also have to operationalize the full digitization of patient health journey. As I've mentioned, the making the referral system electronic and digital is one way of ensuring continuity of care, quality, continuation that many of our HCPNs are still relying on paper-based referral system, referral notes. The ability to do it seamlessly and paperless will be a boost. Majority of the public health process and clinical and medical processes are still mired in paper transactions. I hope the DOH orders and PhilHealth there's some sort of a very similar to the United States, some sort of a paper transaction reduction act. Our facilities, specifically our RHUs and city health centers would greatly rejoice if action seamlessly and 100%. Do we still have time, Sean? Yeah. So I'm going to now to shift to just give me 5 minutes to our dashboard because this is my last slide. Tama ba, Shan? Yeah, how to make interoperability work. What I'm going to show you is our national dashboard. For obvious reason, while this data is updated, it's not expansive, mainly because this the data I'm going to show it to you basically to show you the promise of what interoperability can do. Can we now go to health financing calculator, for example? No, I'm sorry, the dashboard, health financing. As a peak in a comprehensive view, what's happening? Yeah. Can we make our connection faster? Para it gives us a national view of the claims performance of 165 facilities with various PhilHealth accreditations. For example, if I am the province of, can we choose what? Maybe Tarlac? Yeah. So if I'm going to choose the province of Tarlac, it will show to me the number of life and the total claims filed for period. So as you can see on your upper right corner, this is updated on a weekly basis. This is updated as of March 10. So it gives you an idea where they are. Here in the province of Tarlac, they have set forth since 2020 a yearly target for our claims reimbursement as well as consulta. So if you hover, for example, in one facility, can you choose, Santa Ignacia, for example, or Moncada? Yeah, Moncada is there. It will show to you the number and types of claims filed. So again, we are encouraging our LGUs to also have at their level their own targets so that we can benchmark their performance for the following years. So Moncada is one of our performing facilities here in Tarlac. But then again, so this is one, and then can you scroll down, Chan? The main issue I have with Tarlac is this, and I'm going, I already raised this to the provincial. As you first require can put in their uh, opinion later. But we can also see on the right side for integration purposes that 56% of the claims, how much have been paid, Chan? I think it's 5 million. You can see. So this also speaks and supports the our partners from PhilHealth that to dispel the rumors that they're not paying. So, and then again, we can also see the performance of the clinics. Can you go down? There, the 7 days. There, the 7 days, and then who performed and who did not perform, who filed the most claims, and who filed the least claims. So, again, from the perspective of a healthcare provider network, this is very informative as well as gives them the opportunity to regularly track and monitor their facilities. So, this is claims. Can we now move on to Consulta, for example? So for Consulta at the national level, it will also show to you some snippets. So as of March 10, 223 of our facilities have already filed 463 million Consulta reimbursements, and then led by the City of Manila. But we can also filter this to facility, doon sa there, yeah. And then we can see which facility is performing when compared to other facilities. Okay, and then scroll down. We can also see their performance on the last 7 days, for example. Now we have this experiment because we're trying to argue, for example, for LCEs, governors and mayors to invest more in terms of personnel. Can you go back to the provincial levels at the ASEAN? So no, dun sa facility. Yeah, there. As you can see, at the national level, sige, Shan, scroll down to 7 days. Majority of the consulta data are being uploaded for the during office hours. First, the legend here is the orange one are the work done on 8-5. Right? Nawala ang legend ni Vincent. And then the blue one up are the records done from 5 p.m. to 12 a.m. And then those below are the work done from 12 a.m. to 8 a.m. So as you can during 8 to 5. For certain provinces, click Laguna, for example. Shout out to our friends at Laguna. No, I just click the box, Shan. There, Laguna, the 23 million, there. For Laguna, for example, and then scroll down. As you can see, majority of your consulta work are being done after and before the office hours or when the facility remains open. The same case with Rizal. Can you click on Rizal now? So what does this trying to tell us? Maybe while dedicated and hardworking, our healthcare providers at these provinces and LGUs need help in terms of doing additional work for consulta, right? So it is good because it shows the dedication and commitment of our personnel, health personnel, but it also sends some sort of call for help that they need help, maybe non-health professional to help them encode and record this consulta data set so that they can get reimbursement for consulta. So that's one. And then we also have, can you go to the pregnancy tracker of Manila? So these are just some of the dashboards that we are helping our LGUs. Again, I'm showing this to you because can we imagine, for example, if we have this dashboard interoperable and available to all provinces and cities, and it becomes agnostic, and all EMRs are able to submit data to the province dashboard like this. So, for example, this was specifically recommended last year for them to track and give support and assistance to their pregnancies at risk. The good news is majority of their pregnancies are in the 20 to 49 brackets. If you hover, it will give you their gravida band tawag dito siya, no? So, and then but the bad news is they have 406 teenage pregnancies, and then they already have 97 plus 1, so 98 repeat pregnancies. No, 98 teenagers will have their second, third, and fourth babies even before they reach 20. And sadly, even sadder, they have 20 pregnancies by 10 to 14. And then when you look at the right side, can you highlight yung mild at-risk pregnancies? It will also show to you, it will help the barangay health workers and the midwives identify where these pregnancies at risk are so that they can better be taken care of. Can you go down? How many pregnancies are going to be delivered this April, for example, 56 of them, and then it will show to you which day of the month they can actually prepare for. So in the city of Manila, we are going to launch, as I mentioned, the referral system. So their MOP dictates that their pregnancy records should be shared directly with their hospitals when the patient is considered at risk for pregnancies. And then next, finally, in preparation further, the dashboard will show that 889 of their at-risk pregnancies are already on their third trimester, and it will show to you that Manila has done a very good job of giving 4 or more ANC visits to these pregnancies. But the other factor, the vaccine, for example, they only 183, tama ba ako siyan? Only receive at least one vaccine or supplement, and they are already on their third trimester. They're trying to sort this out. They were able to sort out the ANC visit for the 6 months, this dashboard was rolled out, but the supplements and vaccine, they're having trouble with procurement. So I think that's pretty much it. So thank you very much for attending, and I think we're now open for discussion and questions.
Yes, Sir Pei. So thank you so much for that very informative lecture. And of course, we appreciate you sharing the dashboard, sorry. I believe you have received enthusiasm from the group. And I would just like to tell you, Sir Pei, no, that it fills my heart to hear that UPM Salab contributed to expanding WAS network and in capacitating your people as well. So very heartwarming pa to hear that. And I know we had some technical difficulties with the network bandwidth during the lecture. My apologies if there are any disruptions. And this actually highlights a crucial point no, about digital health implementation here in the Philippines. So as you can see, reliable internet connectivity is really essential. And unfortunately, it continues to be a major challenge, not only here in Metro Manila, but what more no, in any other area. So now I'm opening the floor for questions, especially if you need further clarification on the presentation. Again, you have three options. You can use the raise hand function if you want to ask live, or you may type in your questions in the chat box, or if you want to ask anonymously, please feel free to use the Q&A button. So here, sir, we have questions already in the chat box. So let me just read it for you. If you get an opportunity to ask the Secretary of Health for three things, what would those be? And this is from UPM Salab Director, Dr. Alvin Morrison. Over to you, sir.
Yeah, you always ask the hardest questions, Doc Eloy, but but I appreciate it. Number one, I would ask for three things. Number one, I would respectfully request the DOH Secretary to decentralize and localize the National Health Data Repository and fund and support the cities and provinces that are doing work on interoperability. So that's already two: decentralize, localize, and then fund and support the LGUs as well as the CSOs and their partners. And then number three would be to take a look at what the wireless access for health cities and provinces are doing in terms of dashboard, because he specifically mentioned that he wanted to create a national dashboard, and I think we've already demonstrated what a powerful tool a dashboard can be, especially if the data are coming from the local facilities themselves. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. And it's really important, no, that our policies here are data-driven, not just locally in the LGUs, but as well as national policies. Okay, so we have another question from another UPM Silab member, Sir Dr. Thomas Reyes. So his question is, how can we optimize healthcare logging while delivering primary care and reduce the burnout of our healthcare providers? So there is a follow-up question. So can we build extensions or plugins in Chrome to optimize and personalize workflows? Or basically, how can we reduce the burden of the death by 1,000 clicks? So will WA have features like AI patient transcriptions in the future?
Thank you very much po, Doc Thomas. Dr. ba? Tama ba? Gab. So, yes, we are already exploring po AI and machine learning, not just for our dashboards, but also for our Watermelon platform. As for the death by 1,000 clicks, I completely agree. No, so what we have po here in WA is the regular feedback. We call it pause and reflect. Are we still sharing? Can you go to Consulta 2024 and then City of Manila, Shan? I just want to show si Doc Thomas on the importance of pause and reflect. So every quarter po, Doc, as much as we could and as many as we could, we have this what we call pause and reflect session. It basically has the end user feedback, and then as well as the feedback from the patient, and that's how we continue to recalibrate and improve our platform and our processes and overall our partnership. So go to Consulta 2024 and then choose Manila. So what I'm going to show to you, Doc, is it's very similar to what I mentioned earlier, that platforms or software or technology is supposed to disrupt and as well as to understand how things are done, no, at the facilities. Pero the people, the processes, and the policies must also be followed or harmonized para masuportahan tong disruption na to. So, and sadly, many providers are missing that point. They are just looking at the software or the platform as a cure-it-all solution. Can choose a previous year. Choose 2024 sa baba, periodic consulta. There, on the left. Yeah. So, I'm going to show to you yung quarterly. Can you scroll down, Chan? We had Manila adopted Consulta-WA last quarter of 2023. So after 6 months of usage, we had our pause and reflect session in March last year. And then we had a week-long series of consultation with end users, facilities, and patients. And tremendous amount of inputs we received, Doc, doon sa pause and reflect session. And that enabled them to really jump and basically improve their performance when we recalibrated the system and their SOPs and their processes. As you can see, yun, nag-take off po talaga, no, yung performance nila on Consulta after that pause and reflect session. We had another pause and reflect session in December last year, and then we are expecting a more robust and how should I say it, a more robust digitization of patient records in Manila beginning this year. Our session in March 20 is also a pause and reflect, and we will attempt to fully digitize, hindi lang po PhilHealth data, pati na po ang DOH reporting, including their morbidity reporting, beginning 2025 calendar year, with support and cooperation of their CESU as well as the Manila Health Department. So, na-answer ko ba, Gab?
Yes, sir. So I think there's a follow-up question related to that, sir. So do you partner, sir, WA with private clinics in the rural setting?
I'm sorry, do we partner? Tama ba?
Apo,
Is that
with
the
private
question?
clinics in the
Yes,
rural setting.
we began partnering with private clinics in the rural setting, yeah, late last year. As a matter of fact, this year we onboarded one private facility in Baras, Rizal, no, one in Nueva Ecija. So majority actually, even of our private clinics, are number one located outside of cities. Number two, they are family owned, no, clinics. Usually nanay or mag-asawa yung doktor and then nurse yung anak. So, and then number three, we're very proud na without having or declaring it, no, all our private clinics are not doing out of pocket or requiring out of pocket expense for their PhilHealth members and dependents. So somehow following, parang nag-harmonize yung vision and mission namin to basically transform public health with the least possible expense from the patient.
Yes, sir. And I would just like to read what Doc Eloy mentioned in the chat. So he would like to extend his congratulations to WA. He's happy to see how WA has grown since the launch in 2010 and hope the other healthcare provider networks can reach out and learn from your lessons po. And so congrats, big congratulations to WA. So here's another question, sir. Are there any hardware specifications for the Fire server in WA po? Meron po ba kayong hardware specifications for the Fire server daw po? And can you
we are not yet fire expert. Our fire knowledge actually came from Doc Eloy and Silhab, no? They have to be agreed upon by the DOH and PhilHealth. There are national set standards po, and it's very expensive and it's very costly. Kaya po, we would need the DOH and PhilHealth chipping in and hopefully development partners. But what we're trying to do po for WA is to encourage some sort of a pooling of resources. We have MOA na po with our cities and provinces, and hopefully the DOH and PhilHealth can chip in. And then we would create po Fire server for cities and provinces. No, meron pong specification diyan. Unfortunately, hindi ko po alam yung specific, but we're going to follow po kung ano po yung nire-recommend usually po ng UPC Lab and its partners, no.
Yes, thank you so much, sir. Sir, here's a question actually about your staffing. So, how many staff currently does SWA have and what kind of experts or staff do you have? So, I guess siguro interested siya in setting up siguro then another kind of
Yeah.
digital health
We
platform.
are a team of 21, no? Ang average age natin, Sean, I think medyo bumata kami. I think average age is around 32 to 35. Me being the oldest, tama ba? O ikaw, Sean. So, yun. And then, out of the 21, about half are tech combination of software developers as well as tech support and those in charge of data security and privacy and confidentiality. The other one, the 1/4 is for operations, the finance and the planning, and the office manager and the HR. And the other 1/4 would be our nurses and trainers. So that's basically the composition of the team. Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you so much, Sir Faye. And I would just like to read, here's a question regarding AI, since we had topics on cybersecurity, especially in the age of AI last 2 weeks ago. So is it safe to say that we are ready not to disclose any health information exchanged to the wrong hand? And Sir Alvin actually answered that no, we're not ready to embed AI into our real-world health data workflow until we understand how the AI preserves privacy. And Sir Pei, maybe you would want to add
I completely
anything to that?
agree. And that's why in the interoperability of systems, it's very important. Again, trained by UPC Lab, we should mind the gaps. No, so
Yes.
not just the interoperability and standards. There should be governance structure that would decide who have access, for what purpose, for what reason, and up to what
Extent.
level of confidentiality are they allowed. So among others, these particularities will have to be discussed within the governance framework. And until we have that, then AI I think should be set aside first. And then yung tanong po ni Doc Eloy, yung pass-through, as a matter of fact, Doc Eloy, we are already exploring this. Here in Tarlac po, happy po ang primary care facilities, no? Half is with WA, half is with iClinic SIS. We are already encouraging and our dashboard is ready na to allow other EMRs like iClinic SIS, iHomies, ComLogic to generate XML or CSV files, and then we can upload it sa dashboard, because the provincial dashboard of Tarlac right now only shows WA facilities outputs, no? So kung yun po yung sinasabi nyo, Doc Eloy, na pass-through, we are already entertaining it. It's the closest thing we have po sa interoperability as of now, no? But we are already planning to do it this first quarter of 2025 in the hope of showing our partner cities and provinces a more holistic view of their dashboard from with generated data from other EMRs. Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Sir Pei. And here is a question actually, and they want to have a MOU with WAPO from Bulacan State University, and I guess this is
Sure.
also
Yeah.
from
We have
Tuguegarao.
we have MOA with the Tarlac State University, as I mentioned, and we're very proud that we are being supported by State University. So please leave your contact details, Bulsu and CSU. Sa CSU, we're very happy because WA is growing there. Apari, Pamplona, Santo Niño, Piat, we're already there. So what we aim to do here, again, following yung research-oriented and advocacy ni Doc Eloy and CLAB, is to encourage state universities to to be trained on how to look at the, of course, anonymized patient and health data by our facilities in your locality, so that you can also create some sort of an epistemic local communities, no, either by region or by province, and then you can input during health board meetings sa region ninyo or sa provinces. We would gladly have a MOU or MOA with state universities. Thank you.
Okay, so I guess we have last question, or I think this is the last question rather. So I'll just merge the two questions po, no? So maybe you can ano. So is the DOH pursuing or leading this interoperability project to connect all systems? Okay. My apologies. The other question was probably deleted. So I think that would be the last question. Is DOH pursuing or leading this interoperability project to connect all systems, since we're doing multiple encoding for different DOH systems? So there is the OHAS Plus, the WA, iClinicSys, etc. And I think it's very time consuming. And yun nga po sir, no, you mentioned yung redundancy and duplicates. Yun po.
Thank you,
So,
Carla, for the question. Yes, DOH and PhilHealth are leading this charge for interoperability. And unfortunately, I keep on mentioning na hindi pa masyadong nag-evolve or nag-expand ang role ng mga CSOs as well as local government. So I think the DOH and PhilHealth are open to expanding the roles of CSOs like WA, the private sector as well as the local government. So as for the DOH systems, again, yung latest news po na natanggap namin is the DOH will be streamlining their systems this year, and then i-merge yata lahat ng system into one big software. We're looking forward to that, but more than that, one big software of the DOH, we also look forward na itong one big software na to would be finally be interoperable with other EMRs para din seamless na yung pag-uusap ng WA and then this DOH system. Thank you.
Sorry, sir. Okay, so the last question was actually resent, and I would really like to read this lang po, no? So what kind of support does LGU receive from DOH and PhilHealth, or from, yung mga LGUs under the healthcare provider networks? What kind of support do they receive in implementing interoperability plans and strategies?
As of now, ang nare-receive pa lang nilang support, I think, what's there out there is advocacy. So, ini-inform sila what is interoperability, what is PAR, what is National Health Data Repository. But then again, I'm very optimistic because Doc Eloy is there and will always be there. Meron na kaming plano, meron na kaming mga next steps. We are planning to bring to the DOH, kay Yusek Chong, kay Director Bentley at saka kay SecTed yung mga wish list ng mga local government units, no, natin. They need support, and as I've mentioned, for interoperability to really work and be really felt, no, at the on the ground, the local governments, the local state universities, and the local health facilities must be involved, no. Hindi siya pwedeng top down approach dapat siya, no. So everybody should be meeting at the middle, and that's why I am advocating for a decentralized approach on interoperability. So ayun, sana mapagbigyan tayo ng DOH and PhilHealth na mabigyan ng support ang mga interoperability for their local health information exchange. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Sir Pei. Thank you also to the group for your engaging and relevant questions. Before we formally end this session, I would just like to remind everyone that the conversation doesn't have to end here. So flashed in your screen is the list of upcoming topics for March. So stay tuned. Follow us on Facebook and other social media accounts for further updates. But now, I think this is what you guys are waiting for. So now let's have a group photo. I invite everyone to please turn on your camera. In 3, 2, 1, smile. And that brings us to the end of today's IOL 201 Community Connect webinar session with the topic Interoperability, a View from the Ground. So we're always looking for fresh perspectives and exciting stories to share with our community or COP. So a question to the group. Would you guys like to be featured in our next session? So do you have a project you're passionate about, an innovative idea you'd love to discuss, or perhaps a unique experience you'd like to share with our fellow community members? So we'd love to hear from you. So if you're interested in being a featured speaker or you have a topic in mind that you think would resonate with our audience, please send us an email with a brief pitch of your idea. So once again, thank you all for actively participating. Let's continue to connect, collaborate, and learn together. All right, this is Gabby Velasquez. Have a great day and stay safe, everyone. See you next Wednesday. Bye. Thank you, Sir Pay again, and Tuwa.
Thank you, Gab. Thank you, everyone. Doc Johanny, call out sa'yo. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Doc Eloy.
you.
Bye.